Hello, everyone. I'm Anand Prasad. Thank you very much for listening to my talk, and thanks to the organizers for having me here. Today, I'm going to talk about securely operating a cloud-native mobile network. So again, appreciation for being here, listening to me. My talk today will cover these aspects as given here. So I'll be starting with the cloud-native design, going on to connecting it to the 5G aspects. Since it is about security and operations, I'll go into the security impact part and then go into the outlook part. Yeah. So now, talking on this topic, the cloud native, the 5G part, security itself, and operational implications, you can understand that this is a huge topic. I have 20 minutes to talk to you today. I'll just go on the key points here and hope that helps you understand, helps you think, and you're always welcome to connect me. And I'm there over social media, LinkedIn, and other places as well. As a background about myself today, currently I'm working at Deloitte Tomatsu Cyber, which is, before that I was at Winnovator, my own company, which is now part of Deloitte Tomatsu Cyber here in Tokyo, Japan. And then I have experience in Rakuten Mobile, in NEC, in NTT Docomo, Lucent Technologies, things like that. I've been doing security and connectivity area for over 20 years, including chairing 3GPP security group. Now, about cloud native system design, on this aspect, just a little bit of background before we move into the 5G part so that you can see the linkage there. This slide is just numbers. I'm not so much of a numbers person when it comes to markets and how things are taking up, but you can see that there's more and more usage of cloud everywhere. Yeah, and that is just to show you how the world is shifting. The cloud uses of cloud in general for IT side, in mobile communication side, and be it the private network or OT as well. Yeah. And why all this shift? And if you have some background of 5G, you will start connecting here cloud native and 5G. You see, in cloud, you have much more functional disaggregation, and therefore that it also brings together with it the modularity part. You have the orchestration possibility to bring things up and down, control the whole life cycle from start to end. Mind you, from security perspective, all these parts are important. You have API-based communication, making it much more simpler to communicate, giving much chance to develop new business partnerships as well. And then there's a policy-driven model part as well, and that makes it simpler to change things, simpler to run things, but also has implications when it comes to mobile networks, which we'll touch later. Now, of course, the benefits that it brings, which has been clear to everyone since a while, is scalability, and you can see that because of the nature of cloud, you can scale easily. But mind you, that also depends on your design and how you deploy it, and then how you operate as well. There is flexibility. There is obviously resilience. You can see much better in observability. That's the observability part, and you have possibilities for automation. Yeah. Having said all these keywords, everything has quite a bit of a background behind it. But at the same time, all these things is not just given, or it can be just taken as it is. You have to think carefully how you design. Have you considered security from the beginning? Have you considered operations from the very beginning or not? Yep. So now, looking ahead, you can read the slide. There are the points over ecosystem given here. What I'll say is that, look, when you go out to deploy it, when you decide how you are going to run your network and make it happen, this is when you talking about 5G particularly, you're talking about billions of dollars of investment. Then you have to see whether you are going to run these things and have everything by yourself. You're going to have some partnership, or you are going to give it over to someone else completely. All of these have benefit. And on top of that, what share will you keep? Will you run yourself as an application, or if you take an external party, then will you run you'll have only the infrastructure or more, yeah. And then will you do the orchestration by yourself, or are you going to give that out as well? There are many different things that you can think of, and all of them has their own business implications. All of them has financial implications. All of them has operational implications, and then also regulatory parts come in, yeah. And when you talk about mobile networks, then you are talking about, you cannot talk about just 99.99 something. You're talking about 100% availability, because it is a critical infrastructure. So since I've been talking about mobile and 5G already a lot, let's move towards the 5G context now in this sense. This is again a slide showing how we think that uptake is happening and will happen. The key point being that as 5G comes in, and you see the matching part here with the previous slides that I have shown, is that as 5G comes in, we are talking about a place where more and more partnership will be happening. Yeah, more and more modularity will be there, and the users will increase from just a mobile device with different apps on it to a mobile network which is being used by many different businesses. Yeah, and therefore bringing a complete connectivity in the world that we are today. We are seeing the digitization, or digitalization, if you want to say. We are seeing the increased connectivity, and therefore that's where 5G comes in place to make that happen. Yeah, and that's how you see the connectivity to the cloud native part that we discussed earlier. And so we are going to see a boom, which is in a different sense, very often quite obvious as well, that a new mobile technology comes in and is utilized even more slowly more, and penetrates more in the society. Probably not always, but still each generation has some kind of that kind of behavior. But talking about what is 5G, when we're thinking on how to put this down, it's always different ways you can bring things. Yeah, one is the business made it happen, or did the technology made it happen? Let's look at it. What 5G brings, and we are already seeing in the market. You see, with 5G, the way it is designed, the way it is considered from the very beginning, you see that you can have many different partnerships. Yeah, compared to before, or you are actually sometimes forced to have many different partnerships. Yeah. And at the same time, you have a possibility, because of the nature of it, to optimize things. Yeah, you can decrease your overall cost, and therefore this all brings you to a business optimization, to business transformation and technology and enablement. And what I'm saying is what I have actually seen with different companies, is some different customers or places that I have worked, that you can come to quite optimized way of doing business, and then use different resources for different purposes, cutting your cost, and making a mobile network more of a internet kind of player. Yeah, and there's potentially getting into a much bigger market. And for that purpose, if I take it that way, from business downwards instead of the other way around, you need different technology enhancements. Couple of points given here, like the speed part here, but then when you're talking about speed, you're also very often talking about the data rates. And when you're talking about data rates, then there is a whole bunch of data rates that you can get into, from very low to very high data rates. Yeah. You have improved security and reliability, but mind you, again, that also comes with proper consideration of a complete system. The holistic consideration becomes extremely important. The edge compute being there, and the edge compute having its own security implications that needs to be taken care of. The slicing coming in, that also has its own security considerations to be taken care of, the cloud native part. And then you can have more and more configurability to make that those changes, business impacts happen. Now, with all these things being said, what I have said is that you have more and more software, you have more and more open source, you have more and more new players coming in into the mobile business. You have extreme modularity, and which means that you can make quick changes with the cloud native nature as well. And then you have a mobile network which is more deeper into our society in every sense, and therefore you have increased coverage in any sense, increased footprint, and easier to attack. Yeah, because you have common technologies, you have much more footprint, much more areas to attack, And then with all these variable things coming in, much more complexities from the design to deployment to operations level. Yeah. So you now have a increased security risk, and this is what you need to manage. But of course, being cloud native, it does give you easier ways to do all these things as well. Improve security, by that I mean. So I wanted to just put this slide to get into more of a 5G aspect and the shift towards cloud. So look at this slide, all the words are written there. Look at this slide as number 3, the core network being the central data center. Then you have the edge part as number 2, and then the radio part. All these 3 can be different kinds of clouds, or same kind of clouds if you want to say. And then after that, you have the antenna going out from the radio access network part. Now, when you talk about a centralized data center where your core network lies, and you have all your orchestration and things like that, you have to worry about how to take care of course, the physical security of all those stuff, 1, 2, and 3. But you have to take care of how your core network is secured. Yeah, and the core network now here is a very different than the previous generations of core networks, with a lot of users of API. Yeah, and inside the core network here, I'm also talking about your subscriber credentials, and these subscriber credentials are also related to the privacy that 5G brings as part of the standard package. Yeah, of course it's optional, but the operator will most probably choose that. If you look at that part, just how do you manage the credentials associated with privacy? Do you leave it to the vendors, or do you as an operator take care of it by yourself? Yeah. Then after that, you have inside the core network, which is part of the cloud behavior as well. How much do you segment? Yeah. This segmentation also relates to directly to how you have the visibility in your security operations center, also in network operations center, and then how do you manage it between the segments? Yeah. You can limit the attack in one part, which is smaller, but then you have much more of these taps to your security operations center, or do you make it wider, make it simpler to observe, but still, but then you contain your surface of attack increases, for example. These are just examples. And then your very often for your business purposes, this is where you, and in the edge cloud as well, you will be opening up the APIs to different partners, and then you have many different kind of attacks coming on this API. And so you have to check what are the business relations there and how they should flow and things like that. You can easily talk about 50 to hundreds of APIs opening up outside. Yeah. And then there you have, of course, the roaming bits and things like that also coming. The edge cloud, this is where what will happen is that you'll also have different parties, of course, it will be central part as well, who will provide different services to your customers. And these third parties are coming in there, and these third parties are providing services to and applications and things like that. So the security of this connectivity to these third party, security for your customers, security for your networks, all these things come in play. And how do you manage and observe that? At the same time, privacy implications come in place. Yeah, you have to see that privacy requirements are met properly. Yeah, and then because the mobile operator, once you're running a mobile network, you have very stringent requirements from governments and regulators as well. All right. And if I move to all these 3, 1, 2, 3, you also have, of course, multiple parties that are playing the role, different vendors that you're bringing in, and you have to secure each of them separately, and the communication between them as well, and the possibility to change them as well in time, which is the implication on overall business of this mobile network. And then the radio part as well. The CU/DU split is amazing, but where do you put what? Depending on who you are, how you design your network, you can push the centralized part deeper in the network, or closer, even the DU actually deeper or closer to the end. But at the same time, when you are putting things to your antenna and then any kind of unit closer to that, you want to control that as well. You want to manage that as well. How do you take care of the credentials reaching there? Yeah, all these points, most of the things that I talked here is overall holistic consideration of security. I haven't yet talked about identity access management and the logging and things like that that should happen. But this is just in general all the aspect. Then comes the 3GPP standardized security part as well, the user plane security, the NAS security, and things like that needs to be taken care of. Yeah, and that's why, because you have user associated or subscriber associated credentials, which stays in the network. And when you bring the CUDU up or down, or you in the core network, you bring any functions up and up or down. What you're also seeing that the credentials are also there in the software. Sometimes you have to clean them up properly before the attacker takes it over and then tries something funny. Yeah. So I'll leave you here at this point. Let's move ahead. So I've already been talking about security implications, and I'm quite over time going towards end of time as well, but let me go through things still one by one, and touching to this holistic part of security from people, process, and technology perspective. The whole ball game changes now when you're talking about a mobile network which is cloud-based. What does it mean now? Is that until now, when you had your boxes and things like that, where you would run things with one or two vendors, you could allow them to manage things as well. But can you do that now to benefit properly with cloud-based a 5G network? Can you do that now? I don't think so. It's kind of difficult. Otherwise, you'll be giving you'll be killing your business. You'll be giving managed services to many different vendors. So you have to come and manage the things by yourself. Yeah. And that is not as simple. And therefore, from people perspective, you have to grow them. And you'll also have to rely more on your IT side and bring them in potentially to help you out. Yeah, that's one way to benefit with that. But at the same time, you should think more and more about automation as well. Yeah, and think of this from the very beginning, from the design of your network itself. Now, when it comes to the process part as well, there are lots of considerations here. Until now, you could have your security process, policy, process, procedures as kind of fixed and changing in kind of say 6 months, 1 year basis, or 2 years, 3 years basis, depending on which part of the process you're talking about. But with these fast changes, with let's say a container coming up and going away for a given slice in a few minutes time, you'll have to have much more different consideration for how the processes are in your company. You'll have to have even automation for those purposes. So policy-driven network management, as given down there, also becomes important. But at the same time, seeing that security, those policies are taking care that your given security level is not really altered, only gets better. Yeah. Now, if I talk about and here maybe I should also tell you one more thing. The processes should also take care that you are cloud driven. Yeah, that very often does not happen, and you think that you can just deploy and then run things and then in 6 months time make changes. Now you'll have to see that the processes take care of the dev, sec, ops. Yeah, the process take care of any kind of agile methodology that's being brought. And then the CI/CD process with security in it. Yeah, the continuous security part, continuous availability management part must come in there. Yeah. So as you are building things, your people are taking care of security. Your development method is taking care of security. As you're rolling out, you're automatically checking that there's sufficient security in the code. At the same time, you're taking care that any code that is going in has sufficient identity access management in it, and the logging part. I'm talking about technology aspects here, but those have implications on your processes. Yeah. So all these things have to be taken care of. And that's what I was touching about, technology part. So you have to bring the right kind of tools, and you cannot just start using the existing tools that you have for non-cloud native, right kind of tools that take care of all these processes in technology form to deploy things. Yeah. You have the technology, you have the process to do things, you have the technology to match those processes and run things properly. The people who are knowledgeable of these things to take care of it, each of them bring different level of control. A mistake made by a person, controlled by technology based on the process, for example. Yeah. And I have to mention that the baseline security becomes more important than anything. You have to take care that security considerations are there from the very beginning. You have to take care that vulnerability assessments are done, risks are assigned and followed and fixed. And as things are going in, you have proper knowledge of what assets are in there. that identities and access managements are already in place, and then your visibility is connected to it properly. At the same time, the proper logging, depending on what is going in, what kind of logging should be done, is in place. And as you look at it in the visibility part in the security operations, which I actually don't like saying security operations because it's too simplified. It's more of a, you bring automations, monitoring and operations, and then you take care of the risks as well. Issues also happening at the same time, incident response. So I call it AMOR, AMOR. Yeah? So all these things need to happen with right technology considerations. Yeah. So that you can minimize the resources and have the right technology in place to automate your operations with the technology that you're bringing in use here with proper cloud consideration for a mobile network. So as we move ahead, having said all these aspects about there are quite a few aspects when you're talking about the operations and running of a mobile network or a 5G network. As we move ahead, we are seeing more and more things happening globally. Geopolitical game will be happening, and that will have its implications. We are talking about supply chain security issues as well. Sustainability becoming extremely important, understandably so. And of course, privacy issues, the safety, in addition to security, also coming in place. And all these things will have to be considered properly for you to have a 5G business, which itself is secure in terms of business perspective, and at the same time, security part in people process perspective also taken care of. With that happening, security becomes also a business driver for you. Yeah. So finally, as we are moving ahead, we are talking about all these dreams that has been talked about 5G. Many of these things might not happen in 5G era. It will take time, certain things, and then we'll be going to beyond 5G and 6G as well. As you know, in every 10 years, we are talking about new mobile technology. 6G discussions are already starting. And what happens is that when you come to a time when the specifications are prepared at that time, all the technologies that are there becomes part of the specification. Yeah, we are talking about DLT, we are talking about haptics, we are talking about AI, machine learning, things like that will certainly become the base when 6G is found. When we made 5G, it was built on all the things that 4G was already providing services on: IoT, low data rate, high data rates, things like that. Yeah, but when we made 4G specifications, we're more of talking about, let's get rid of circuit switch, go to packet switch completely, and have much higher data rate. You see, as the 4G was built, 4G's data rate itself became wider because of different services. That became a part of 5G. The cloud was already there. And then now 5G with all the new technologies will move towards 6G and then have its own security implications and will take care of many of the things, promises left from 5G coming in 6G. So that will happen and then have its own security implications as well. There's a separate topic that we can discuss on. And as mentioned here, supply chain issues, the geopolitical issues and things like that, privacy considerations becoming even more, will become extremely important. With that, I covered very quickly overall 5G security aspects and the operational implications. You have to take care of the people. How do you operate? How do you manage the network? You'll have to take care of the right technology being in place and the processes, the right processes being there. Even more important is that the security becomes a consideration from the very beginning for the whole organizations. The other part is, of course, that you'll have the migration path that I haven't touched at all in this discussion. You'll have to consider that. At the same time, you'll have the legacy running while you have the cloud-based 5G network running. You'll have to operate them together, and that's not as simple as one can just say. Yeah. With that, I end my talk. Thank you very much for your attention. You are most welcome to ask me any questions at any time. You can reach me out through social media. And again, I appreciate the organizations for having me here. Thank you.